And the Romans have their influence in Arabia through the Ghassanids because these were their allies. Now, we're going to talk about the details of their religions in a little bit, but these are like two kingdoms, Arab kingdoms. They were not called like tribes, they're called kingdoms. So their king is a king, so they have a crown. You know, the Quraysh people, the Yathrib people don't have a crown. You say he's the leader of the tribe, that's it. They have some kind of nice jacket or whatever, but they don't have like a crown. They don't have like a throne. These two have a crown and throne. The other kingdoms around is Aksum, is currently called Ethiopia. Aksum is mostly at that time Christian kingdom, following the Byzantine Empire, although they have a little bit different version of Christianity, but they were strong allies of the Byzantine Empire, and they were also very close to the Arabia area. As you can see, they're only separated by the Red Sea. And at that time, there were ships, there were trades, there were transports, so they could easily go back and forth. There is also the kingdoms in Yemen. The Arabs also ruled Yemen, the Himyarites, they are a tribe of Arabs, they ruled Yemen, and they established kingdom there. But Yemen, just like the northern of Arabia, there is always skirmishes, is a hot area. It's basically an area that if we start discussing the story now, it will bring kind of memories of recent time, how Yemen has been and will be, and maybe for the future will be a very controversial area because everybody's trying to control Yemen. Everybody trying to control this area of Yemen, and at that time there was Himyari's Arabs controlling it. So the Byzantine Empire, obviously, as we know, Constantine, the emperor of the Byzantine Empire, accepted Christianity as his religion. That was around 300, the fourth century. I'm gonna just random because it's difficult to memorize all the dates. It was in the 4th century. He made a huge convention for all the priests, and he decided that I'm going to ask these priests to make a decision on what is the nature of Jesus, alayhi salam. Many of the Christians were, especially the East Christians, were thinking that Jesus is just a human being. He was a prophet. He gave the da'wah, he gave the message, and he died. Just like majority of the Eastern Christians believe. But the Western Christians were influenced by the Byzantine heritage of thinking of every person being holy, like even their emperors. They call them gods and son of gods, you know? So they had that mentality of, pagan mentality of calling other, like normal creatures as gods. So Jupiter is a god, Venus is a god, this is a god. So why not human is a god? So they were happy with that deviation from the original Eastern Church's definition of what is Jesus. So Constantine did this convention, and the convention decided that Jesus is God. Walayadu billah. That created a lot of division, especially from the Eastern churches. And they decided that they're going to actually move out from that from that Byzantine Empire locations, like they were in Egypt, they were in northern Syria and Palestine. They moved down a little bit, and they actually moved east toward Persia. So think about it. They deflected. They are not in good terms with the Byzantine Empire now because they were prosecuted. If you don't say that Jesus is God and He's divine, then you are prosecuted. So a lot of these Eastern churches leaders moved towards Persia. They were taking refuge in Persia because Persia was the enemy of the Byzantines. So they said, they're going to touch us there. So that's what the Lakhmids or the Manadira were, Christians who are following proper Christianity, or at least most of the time following proper Christianity. Not everybody, but many of them who moved there from Europe or from northern Arabia. Similarly, in Ghassanid, there are some people who actually followed proper Christianity, and there are a lot of Christians who actually ran away from that Byzantine Empire after this divine characterization of Jesus and went to Arabia, including, we know one of them, famous person in Mecca called Waraqah ibn Nawfal. And we heard the story. He's one of the Sayyidah Khadija relative, and he was Hanafi. Not Hanafi in terms of madhab, Hanafi in terms of aqidah. He's like following the teaching of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So he was following the proper teaching. So a lot of these Christians came to Arabia actually. So, so some of the Christians went to around Persia, and I'm telling you this because it will have some impact on the future wars and battles in that area. Because remember, when you are running away from an empire, basically you already not in good terms with them. So if you have any chance to of helping the others against them, you'll do. And then what happened in Yemen is a reflection of that. The Byzantine Empire wanted to control Yemen for a critical reason. I'm going to show you why they wanted to control the Yemen area. Do I have any cursor in them? I don't think there are cursors, right? But these are the major players. These are the major kingdoms in that area. And let's focus a little bit on why these areas matter to the Arabs, to Mecca. See, the yellow lines are land routes of trade. The red lines are sea routes of trade. Arabs had nothing else to do except being a middleman. Like they carry merchants from Yemen in the south, take it to the north, and similarly take merchants from the north back to the south. That's their job. Most of the Arabs did that, and if in their free time they fought to kill each other and steal from each other. But the real job that they had, they were actually middlemen, carrying merchants from one area to another area. And what matters here is the following, and I wish I have a cursor, but if you focus on this area of Yemen and the red line through the Red Sea here, imagine if whoever controls Yemen is under the Persian influence. What's going to happen? If the Persian Empire controls Yemen, the first thing they're going to do is block trade through this route. Why? Because these ships are coming from China, coming from India, dropping their cargo in Eden, or continuing through the Red Sea to the north, to Egypt, to Gaza, to Europe, right? And what are they taking? What commodities are they carrying to Europe? They're carrying perfumes, they're carrying spices, they're carrying incense. Remember, there are churches in Europe, and what do they light in churches? Bakhur, right? They always want bakhur. They want a lot of bakhur, actually, and candles, and these perfumes for their churches. So that was only coming from India, through Aden, through the sea route to the north. Now, if Persia controls Yemen, what's going to happen? Where? Oh, this is weird. I'm touching. It's very small. I can't see it even myself. Oh. Go back. No. Yes. It's all right. It's okay. I mean, I think the slides are, I think they're clear enough to be seen. Yeah, a pointer would have been a great idea, but anyway. So whoever controls the area of Yemen can block the sea route and block, merchants going to Europe. Therefore, the Byzantine Empire was trying so hard to control that region. But the Persians were also very influential. I'm going to go one slide back. As you can see, all these small vessels, Oman, where Oman and Yemen now, they were under the Persian control. Therefore, the Byzantine Empire was dying to actually get a foothold there. So they have actually tried to create cities in the land, because to avoid, so they need to have an alternative. Let's say the Persian control Yemen, they shut the sea. I need to have another route. So what they have done, they created cities like Najran. And Najran is a city somewhere here, northern to Yemen, currently in Saudi Arabia. And this Najran was a hub for land routes. So again, if the sea route is blocked, the ships will drop their cargo in Aden, the port of Aden or other ports, and take it to Najran, and from Najran it can go north. And who controls Najran? The Christians. Christians from Byzantine, few, but mostly from Exum. And we said Exum was Christian. So with the help of Exum, they were able to control the city of Najran. So they cannot control the sea, but they could still control the road routes. And this was upsetting to the Persians. And at that time, in this time when Byzantines were controlling Najran, there was a Yemeni leader. His name is Banias in the Roman naming, but in Arabic we call him Dhu Nawas. So Dhu Nawas is a Himyari guy. He's the king of the Yemenites, but he is an ally to Persian leadership. So Yemen was under Persian leadership. And not to lose the trade that is currently controlled by the Byzantine through Najran, he got an order to kind of destroy that city and kill its people because they were facilitating the land route instead of the sea route. And to suffocate the Byzantine Empire, you have to block all trade routes. All right? So it's a war of trade. And does this kind of resemble anything going on these days? You know how the Houthis are controlling the sea route by not allowing any ship to go to the Israeli ports. So the same story that was happening 500 years before the birth of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is happening now, where whoever controls Yemen can control what kind of trade goes into the Red Sea. So what happened? The Persians got angry that there is some Christians running business in Najran, so they sent Banias or Dhu Nawas. Now, Dhu Nawas, it is possible that he's a Jewish Arab leader. So the Arabs could be Jewish, could be Christian, could be Muslims. So he's possibly was a Jewish leader following the Furs, following Persian. And actually, the relationship between Jews and Persian has been established in history. Throughout, they were protected. The Persians protected the Jews during the Babylonian imprisonment. They protected the Jews afterward. Actually, they also protected the Jews from the Byzantine and the Roman at some point later. So the relationship has been very tight and close. We all know the story of Al-Ukhdud, the surah of Al-Ukhdud, right? This is Surah Buruj. And when you read the surah and the translation and the meaning, you know it is meant to describe what Dhu Nawas did to the Christians in Najran. He dug a trench, a big trench, and he threw, according to his own estimate, some 12,000 Christians from Najran into the fire that he lit, and he was watching it burn. One of the most despicable crimes of history was committed against Christians in Najran that the Quran is describing. قُتِلَ أَصْحَابُ الْأُخْدُودِ. So read that surah and you'll understand which people they're talking about. So that's the Banias. Now, Christians got killed. Who gets angry? The Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine Empire was angry for two reasons, because their followers got killed, plus their trade routes got blocked. Remember, in politics, it's not just always a clear-cut one thing. There is always multiple factors in politics or in geopolitical arena. So they were worried about the trade. For example, what do you think the prices of the perfumes and incense that they needed in the churches? The prices skyrocketed because to get them there, it costs too much money. Not only that, there was actually another event that happened that made them lose a lot of money. You know the Silk Road from China all the way to Europe? We know that Silk Road, that's one of the famous cargo trade routes. Goes from China, crosses Middle Asia, and on top of like Persia, Iran, all the way to Turkey area now, and then to Europe or to the sea. The Turks tribes, not the Turks that are now, they're actually somewhere here in the middle of that map, the Turkmenistan desert. They were tribes, they were nomads, they were moving around. They were not friendly with the Persian. So they were actually continuously interrupting that Silk Road because they were fighting the Persian all the time. So obviously you cannot send merchant in a trade route that is always have fights, right? Because what is the most important thing for any merchant, any businessman? Stability. You want to carry your caravan, you want to make sure that you get it from point A to point B safe. If you know there is a fight in the middle, you're not going to go there. So think about it. The Byzantine Empire is suffering from two things. Their merchants are not coming from the Silky Road because there is the fight between the Turks and the Persian, and the Persians are controlling the Yemen area. There is the port doesn't carry any cargo through the sea into the shores of Europe. So what did they do? They decided to regain that control over Yemen. And who's going to do that for them? They're not going to come themselves. They send it to Najashi of Aksum to actually lead a campaign to go and kill the Nawas and kick Persians out of there. And that's what happened in about 523 CE. The Nawas was killed, and now Abraha, and we all know Abraha, and his leader, Abraha and Ariyat. These are two Abyssinians leaders, Christians, who actually fought hard, kicked the Persians as well as the Himyarites, which is the Arabs who ruled that area. And now, again, Yemen is back to Christian control, which means free trade through the sea, and Europe can get their product again. Now, Abraha was a very greedy guy, so he kicked the other leader out, and he controlled the whole Yemen, controlled the whole thing, and he called himself the king of Yemen. He was just a soldier. He was just a leader of the army, but he appointed himself as a king. And who's upset now? The Najashi, the king of Aksum. He said, I sent you to liberate the land and control it, but do not. Why did you do that? Why did you announce yourself as a king? You know, it's always struggle of powers, right? So, and the Byzantines were happy with Abraha. Oh, this is a good guy. He's a fighter. He brought Yemen back to us. So let's figure out a way to make everybody happy. So they told Abraha, just make Najashi happy, do something for him, and we'll let you be. We'll let you be, but you have to do a couple things for us. First, make sure that trade continues to be open through the sea, so that the route in the Red Sea is carrying our product continuously to the north. So that was guaranteed, because he controls the sea. And also, you have to kill any land trades that is Persians depend on it now. Just it's a zigzag thing, you know. You control something, somebody will open another door, you have to lock it so that you control more. So the Persians will depend now on the land routes, these yellow routes, and this Abraha was supposed to cut these routes. So Abraha, because he's again greedy, he announced himself as the king, and Najashi gets upset. So to please him, what does he do? He goes ahead and builds a temple, a huge temple. And it's called Al-Qullais. And that's the temple that he built so that the Arabs will stop going to Mecca and go to his temple, right? And he built it in a nice way. He put the most expensive things, and it was like gorgeous. And actually, I learned that it was never destroyed until the Abbasid dynasty. Like, people were scared to destroy it because there was some curse around it. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but it was destroyed way later on in the Islamic time, after like the Khulafa, the Umayyad, and then the Abbasiyin. And then the Najashi now is happy. At least he has a temple with his name, and it was gifted to him, and people should go and worship whatever God they want to worship in that temple, and Abraha remained in control. The only thing he has to do now is to fulfill the other requirement and go fight the Arabs. Go fight the Arabs. So there are two ways to understand this story. Either we go with whatever story that is narrated in our books, that is the following. Abraha built this temple. He wanted the Arabs to come and do pilgrimage to it and abandon Kaaba. Since they didn't come, they decided not to come. Because Arabs still believe in Kaaba as the house of Allah, the genuine house of Allah. Yes, they were worshipping idols and all that, but they believe that this is the house of Ibrahim and Ismail alayhim salam. And they actually have high respect to the Kaaba in Mecca. So they would never go and do pilgrimage to that. Actually, one of the Arabs, I'm not sure if this story, it's documented in all the books of Sirah. One of the Arabs, because he was so angry that somebody was thinking that we're going to go and worship somewhere there, he went to this Qullais, the temple of Abraha, and did the number 2 there. And defecated in that place to anger him. And he said, that's what this place deserves. Then Abraha got angry, and that's how the story, Abraha decided to go and invade Arabia and go to Mecca and try to destroy the Kaaba. That's one of the narration. But I will go with the additional narration because always in politics there is multiple stories. That one of his jobs, as I said, is to kill the land trade so that Persia doesn't get its products from the Arabs who are continuously getting caravans to Iraq and to Iran. So he actually led the army towards Kaaba to destroy it. Obviously, he wanted to destroy it, regardless what is the reason, whether it's the religious issue or it was the merchandise issue. At the end of the day, he was not able to destroy it because of all the details that we know, and we'll come to that maybe, of what happened in Surah Al-Fil. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected the Kaaba. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Ibrahim the punishment that he deserved through the Tayr and Ababil. And that story is mentioned in the Quran in a lot of details. But what matters in this story is the following. Where are the Arabs in all that? So the Arabs were the ones who are carrying these caravans, right? The merchants from north to south, south to north. So whenever the Persians are ruling Yemen, what happens to the Arab business? It flourishes. Why? Because they cut the sea route. Arabs, including Abdul Muttalib and Hashim, the grand-grandfather of our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, were so much, they're happier if Yemen is under Persian control. Because the Red Sea route is dead, therefore ships cannot carry anything, and so the camel, which is, we call it the ship of the desert, will carry all the goods to north. So Arabs were they're happy when the Yemen was under Persian control. Now Yemen is under Christian control, under Abraha control. They're basically devastated because those routes are not anymore functional. Actually, there was like famine during that time, and that's the time of Hashim, the grandfather of Rasulullah ﷺ, which we can talk about the details of it later on. But later on, what happens to Abraha? Abraha, after this defeat in Mecca, he goes back, he dies in Sana'a, and the Persians come again through another Himyari king. His name Sayf ibn Di Yazan. He's a famous Yemeni Himyari king, but he actually came on the ships of the Persians to liberate Yemen from the Christians into the Persian territory again. So now, in about 575 years CE. Anybody knows what was the age of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ during this time? 575? A couple years, 5 years. 4 to 5 depends on how we count. So he was a young kid, and his grandfather was Abdul Muttalib. And Abdul Muttalib, once Sayf ibn Di Yazan won the war and kicked the Byzantine, kicked the Abyssinians, kicked the Aksum kingdom out of Yemen, he went from Mecca to Yemen to congratulate Sayf ibn Di Yazan. Because he just made their day, because now Yemen is back into Persia, therefore they're blocking the Red Sea routes, therefore the caravans will be coming more and more through their cities, through Thaqif, through Mecca, through Yathrib, through Khaybar, through these routes, all the way to the north, to the east, and the Arab business will flourish. And that's the story that actually was documented, that Abdul Muttalib went to congratulate the Yemeni king because now their business is flourishing. The Arab business will show up in multiple other sections of the battles between others, but we'd like to focus on the religious part of these two kingdoms. The Yemenis, mostly Arabs, followed whatever the religion that was actually there. So if it was Persian, most likely they will become part of the Sassan and they will follow some of their traditions. Not all of them, some of them. And some of them will actually continue to follow their Hanafi madhab, whether it's Christians or Jew, they will continuously be muwahid. Therefore, you wouldn't find any battle later on in that time of Islam that actually had to liberate Yemen from whatever religion. They actually accepted Islam right away. They were ready for that. So during the battles that we're going to discuss about and talk about, you're not going to even hear the Yemen again, except when we're talking about business. So all the future history of the Maghazi and the battles will be north towards, Byzantine Empire, Persian Empire, and the Arabs around it. The Yemenis were the easiest one to accept Islam because they have got to taste each one of them, and they knew that this was the proper religion. All right. As you can see, in this dynamic trade business, it was affecting the politics of the area a lot. Therefore, Rasulullah ﷺ had to understand a lot of these dynamics and be able to use it in a way to put it for his advantage whenever he needed to. Mecca and Quraysh depended totally on these routes. That was their livelihood. For example, when the Byzantines were controlling Yemen, the people of Mecca at the time of Hashim, the people of Mecca couldn't find food to eat. It's a famine year. Actually, they would do the following. If you don't have enough food, you'll collect your family, pitch a tent outside the outskirts of Mecca, and die there. You don't have enough food. There is nothing coming. So it was tough time for them at the early 5th century when the Byzantines controlled Habasha. And totally 180 degrees different when the Yemenis controlled, when the Persian controlled Yemen. To the degree that actually they were cooking in gold-plated things, silver-plated things, totally 180 degrees. This is why I'm focusing on the regional powers of Persian and Byzantine and Yemen and Aksum, because they affect what's going on in Mecca and in the whole Arabia significantly. Now, who is in Arabia? I'm going to just conclude in 5 minutes because we have to get ready, inshallah, for Isha. I'm not sure if we have any refreshments or snacks in the back, but we were told that we should. All right, so who is in Arabia, the bigger cities? So we talked about Najran. We talked about, obviously, Taif is one of the big cities that trades go through. Mecca, obviously. Yathrib was a very important city for transport. From Yathrib, here in the middle of the map, you can go either north or go east towards Iraq or Hira, where the Lakhmis are. And there is Khaybar. Khaybar was a mostly Jewish city. Actually, Khaybar was the New York city of Arabia. So, all the trades, all the rich people are in Khaybar. Obviously, there is a lot of Jewish concentration there, therefore, money is there. So, and they were actually at the middle of the routes as well. So routes going north or going east, going to the actually seaports, also go through Khaybar. And there is the Dumatul Jandal, Doma. This Dumatul Jandal is the capital of the Ghassasinids. And this is also another trade center. And on the east, there is Al-Hira. Al-Hira and on top here, yeah, Al-Hira. That's the capital of Lakhm, and it's an Arabic city controlled by the kingdom of the Manadira. The Arabs generally did not interact with the outside world. Only these Arabs in the Lakhm and in the Ghassans were interacting with the Byzantine and with the Persians. Like the Arabs of Mecca, Arab of Medina did not really visit the Byzantine Empire, or they had no business there. They were just worried about carrying cargo from here to there. The north they went is like Gaza and Busra in Syria, and in Iraq, in Al-Hira, and obviously south in Yemen. But the only time that Arab actually engaged with the other countries is through these kingdoms. And as I said, they're allies. So the Lakhams are allies of the Persians. But one time, and this is, I'm going to conclude with this story, just to show that Arabs can sometimes get serious if they wanted to. So the Persian Empire wanted the leader of the Lakhmis, called An-Nu'man ibn al-Mundhir. He is the king of Hira. He's a very strong king. He's a very honorable man. He's Christian. And he was, again, following proper Christianity. He wanted him to help him do something to beat the Byzantines, and that was like send him his money, send him his soldiers and wealth so that he can prepare the army. So this Nu'man refused. And then the king of Persia called him in. Come in. What are you talking about? You are a follower of my kingdom. I protect you. Therefore, you need to listen to what I'm telling you. So Nu'man ibn al-Mundhir went by himself to the Persian king, where he actually imprisoned him or killed him, but he never showed up again. So the Lakhmis lose their king, called Nu'man al-Mundhir. And the king of Persia, the empire, wants to now to control again that area, but the Arabs didn't like that we were allies for all this time and you killed our king. So for the first time, and this is important for the Arabs because it matters when things happen like that. For example, it matters that Abraha couldn't destroy Kaaba. And that's actually called Amul Fil. That was the year that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was born. And Arabs remember things by events. They don't have a calendar, right? They don't have a calendar called Amul Fil was 570. They didn't know that. That's just called Amul Fil. So if you ask somebody, when we were born, 2 years before Amul Fil, the year of Fil, or 5 years after. That's how they calculate things. So this battle that happened in Iraq, in an area called Dhiqar, is a battle between Arabs. It's the first war between Arabs and Persians. And the Arabs won. The Arabs won, and therefore they remember it as the year of Dhiqar. So when you tell somebody in that area, what year you're, oh, in the year of Dhiqar, or 5 years after, or 5 years before it. And that year of Dhiqar was also about the same time of the birth of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, maybe 1 year plus minus, because again, the estimates can be very fluid, but that was about that. So in the year that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born, and we're not there yet. I mean, we're not jumping to it, but we have to kind of link things together. The year that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born, the Arabs kind of defeated, one through God's protection of the house of Allah, the Abraha army, and the Persian army. Two big armies were defeated by the Arabs, which was a sign for the Arabs that we can do something. It is possible for us to do something. But they didn't have the tools yet. They didn't have the proper message. They didn't have the proper spiritual guidance that they need to lead where they need to lead. But the tool, the possibility was still there. Therefore, in the next episode, we will see what did the Arabs do before Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and what did they do at the time of his birth ﷺ, and how again all these dynamics affected their internal affairs. So we have just again looked outside into the kingdoms around Arabia. Next halaqah, inshallah, next Jummah, we'll be talking about specifically about Arabia and specifically about Quraysh. And we're going to be touching a little bit about now the actual events of the seerah through the birth of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. But it's important to understand the context. It is difficult to tell you that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his Sahaba beat the Byzantine Empire and the Persian Empire without knowing what these empires are going through and what they represent. So I hope that I covered that enough for you to understand the relationship between the Arabs and the trade routes, and the relation between the control of Byzantine Empire as well as the Persian Empire over the certain areas, including Yemen, and how it affects their livelihood. And inshallah, if you have any questions, I'm not sure if we're going to have actually a lot of time for a question, but if anybody have a question about this area that we covered, and please keep the questions related to the time period that we covered. And obviously, if it's a religious question, let's defer in asking religious questions, because that's not really the main focus of this series. Jazakumullahu khair. Yes. Yeah, Brother Saqib, you can take a picture of that. I put the references in the first couple of slides. Here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All these are available in free, actually, some of them are, and some of them are maybe cheap in Amazon. Yeah. And there are actually other books. Most of these narrations are mentioned in multiple books. Yeah, so before that, actually, it's good. Thank you for pointing that. I failed to mention that the narration I was talking about the Abraha and why did he go to Mecca is not mentioned in the Arab books. It's mentioned actually in the Byzantine records. You know, Byzantine Empire was very organized. Romans before, they are emperors, they are empires of systems. You know, Romans have taxation system, have counting systems, have civilian systems. So they have records and they have documentation. So the Byzantine, every time there is a campaign, there is a war, there is an event, they have historians who put that. And the story of Abraha is documented in the Byzantine books and Byzantine records. So some of that is mentioned in the last book, The First Spring, by Waddah Khamfar, and he collected that from these Byzantine references. Yes? Yes. So it was temple made to honor the king, the Najashi, to appease the Najashi, and it was giving all the decoration that you put in a temple, marble, gold. So it was a Christian temple, and he wanted the Arabs to start pilgrimage to it. And I think, to me, it wasn't about religion, and this is how I interpret the book. It was actually about changing the routes of trades from one area to another area. But religion was a factor. Why did Mecca became a trade center? Is Mecca really have that? Is it a trade hub? No, but because Kaaba was there, so Mecca became a trade center. We're going to talk about that maybe next episode, inshallah, next halaqah. But it was a Christian temple. Yes. It's a monument, but people need to go worship there. Yeah. Yes. Let's go to the map. So you're talking about Arabia. There is a lot of Arabia areas, right? So the Arabia that is actually near the Gulf state, I am not good with this. So let's go here. Maybe here. No. So here. So Arabia, any area near the Persian Gulf is under their control. Any area near the Arabian Sea is under their control. The only area that is contentious is Yemen and the Hijaz area. Now, remember who's in the other side of the sea. You have Egypt, under which control? Byzantine. You have Aksum under Byzantine. So to get closer to that sea means you're starting a global war, like a World War II, III. No, actually, -1 then. Because you're getting too close now. So obviously the Byzantines aren't going to allow that. That's their route. They have to protect it. In Yemen, it's so far from them, they're leaving it to Aksum, to the Najashi, to do that job. And sometimes he fails, sometimes he doesn't. So yeah, they try to. And these are, actually, let's go back to the previous map. These, like Oman and area, these were Persian controlled. So they tried their best. All right, so we didn't do any seerah today, but I think it's important to put things in context for the whole region, the world, before we shall indulge into the area of Arabia and the time and the clan of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and know actually who are these people who are considered the clan of Prophet Muhammad. And I mean, this is a taste of the next one, and you have to memorize this, okay, for next week, inshallah. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.